Hi, I'm Trevor Brown, the Dean of the John Glenn College of Public Affairs. Welcome to Career Conversations, a conversation with public sector professionals, many of who carry degrees like those offered by the John Glenn College of Public Affairs. And in fact, today we're joined by Tracy Najera, who's the Executive Director of the Children's Defense Fund here in Ohio, and a proud graduate of the Glenn College. Tracy, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for joining me and sharing some insights for our students, both at the undergraduate and graduate level, about the kind of work you do and the way you got there. So let's go all the way back. How did you wind up in public service? What spurred you to pursue this line of work?
Sure. So, well, I did my undergraduate at Ohio State, and throughout my undergraduate career, I was probably overly involved in student organizations and student leadership. And, I really enjoyed it. I was chair of an editorial board for a magazine on campus. I was president of several organizations. I really liked the service. I liked the camaraderie. I liked what I was learning. I found that I probably was learning more outside of the classroom in those experiences in many cases than I was inside. So I knew that service of some sort would be in my future. I just wasn't sure what that path looked like.
So it started in the crucible of college.
Absolutely. And actually, I had one of my advisors for one of the student organizations that I was leading. I remember being in his office. He used to be the director of the Ohio Union. His name was Frank Genscher, and he was also a graduate of the School of Public Policy and Management, SPPM, before we got great branding. Right. And he was the one that he actually is the one that recommended that I look into the school, look into public administration. So I credit him with that.
So did you go right from your undergrad into our graduate professional program, or did you work in the intervening period?
No, I went straight through. So when I graduated, I had a degrees in political science and international studies. And I don't think I was quite ready, and I didn't quite know what I wanted to do with that yet. Yeah. So, and I thought it would probably be better for me just to go straight through, which I did. And there was a very small cohort of students. I think there was only 8 of us that were MPA students at that time. And it was also a combination of not a great job market. Yep. So I felt like it gave me enough time and space to really hone in on what I wanted to do professionally, and also give me some experience, if I wanted to do some internships. Right. That was, obviously you learn a lot, but it's also it's low stakes to a certain degree.
I would imagine, I know for a fact, there are a lot of students who are now facing what 2 months, 3 months ago was one of the best employment markets in the history of the country, and now it's cratered. I would imagine that graduate school is not a bad place to go figure out what comes next, and more importantly, learn skills that will position you for whatever comes next in the professional sector. So talk a little bit about your first job hunting after your graduate degree. Where did you go right upon completion of your graduate degree, and how did you choose that, and where did it take you?
Well, I'm actually really happy to say I never really had to pursue a job. I was offered one. So yeah, I did. And I should probably back up and just say, I did a lot of volunteer work, and I did internships with like Columbus City Schools and their Office of Budget and Legislative Affairs. And I just, I was really interested in education. So I just really dug in. I would go to like screenings of education documentaries just to meet people, that were in the field, and do those types of things. And I was taking a class, and my adjunct professor, his name was Mark Reel, and he was actually the executive director of Children's Defense Fund. And I must have done really, really good in that class. In fact, I know I did, because he, towards the end of the quarters, we were in quarters back then, he asked me for my resume, and that he had a position for me if, if I was looking for a job with a nonprofit. I was really hesitant about it because I wasn't quite sure if, that was necessarily something that I wanted to do right off the bat. But, you know, uh, my dad actually told me that there would be no other time in my life where I would be able to afford to make that little money.
Yeah.
And so it really encouraged me to just do it, and it was a great experience. I'm really happy that I did, because and I was a policy fellow, so I really wasn't making that much money. I did have health insurance, which was great,
Yep.
but I think what I got in terms of experience was far more valuable than any paycheck could have paid. I was like 24 years old. I was going with like a contingent of people from Columbus City Council and the mayor's office to Harvard University for a 4-day training on civic engagements. I mean, how many people can say that they did that right off the bat?
Yep.
And it was, but it was experiences like that over the next 2 years that I worked for CDF right out of grad school, where, it was amazing, and, just completely valuable.
Now, it's interesting. You started at an organization where you now are working, but in between, you did some other work. Namely, you went and worked for state government. Sometimes
Yep.
people have in their mind, oh, I picked this organization and that sets a career path. I'm going to be in the nonprofit sector for ever and ever and ever. But no, you pivoted to state government and then you pivoted back to the
Yeah.
nonprofit sector. Tell us about that switch.
Yeah. So that was really hard. When I was at CDF, about a year and a half in, um, my executive director, he decided he wanted to spin off another nonprofit organization called Kids Ohio. And he asked me if I'd go with him to lead up their initial public policy agenda. And I thought, that's a great opportunity. Absolutely. I'm going to go with you and do that. And it was, again, a great experience. Somewhere in that year, I started thinking beyond the role that I was in and thinking about, what do I want to do in 10 years from now? What do I want to do with this? And one thing that, kept coming back up in conversations with people that, were mentoring me at the time and that I greatly respected, was that you need to get different sets of experiences.
Yeah.
And one of those people, his name's Jack Jackson, another graduate of the Glenn College. He recommended that I look into the state's Office of Budget Management. And he was like, apply for a job there, maybe work 2 years, get an idea of how state government works, and you'll have a whole new set of skills, where you can maybe move up to like a policy director or, at a nonprofit. And I thought, that's a good idea, but I did not want to go. I loved working in nonprofits, but it's kind of those things like you just do it because it's good for you, not necessarily because you want to do it. So I went to OBM, and my plan was to be there for 2 years through a budget cycle, learn as much as I could, and leave. And then I ended up staying for almost 8 years.
Yeah, couple budget cycles.
Couple budget cycles. I think what I learned there was very surprising, in that I was surrounded by probably some of the smartest people that I'd ever met. They were all just incredibly dedicated to good, solid, accurate policy analysis. They worked for Republicans, they worked for Democrats. In their minds, it didn't really matter the party, right? And so I really love the approach. I love the mindset. I love the ability to bring in, just your training from, public policy, public administration, public analysis or policy analysis, bring that into, the work that we were doing. And it was a great experience. And I loved most moments of it, but I loved what I learned. I loved the position and the role that they play and how government and policy works.
You mentioned earlier that this is a very challenging job market to walk into. What advice do you have for students about how to navigate this? And what advice do you have about where to go look for jobs in this kind of environment?
Yeah. So I think that, when you talk about jobs, you talk about employment, I think it's important for a lot of people to not only just earn the paycheck, but also, find purpose in the work that they're doing. And, I've been thinking a lot about that, um, you know, especially as I'm hearing about more and more, college graduates, the offers are disappearing, or, what's going on. And I think that this is not the time to kind of sit back and hope that something comes along. This is really a time for you to think about and take stock of your take stock of your health, take stock of the fact that you've learned a tremendous amount of information, and think about what is it that you would like to do in the community or in society as you are doing your job search.
Right.
Right, what can you actively be doing
Yep.
to either improve or expand your network, learn new skills, or contribute to the greater good. So I would say stay active, keep learning. I just sent my kids who are in the other room, I just sent them a link that Harvard University is offering, like, about, I think it's 200 free online courses.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Ohio State and others are doing the same. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is an opportunity to take advantage of those things. And if there is a cause that you believe in strongly, maybe this is a chance for you also to lend your voice to that cause as well. But I mean, by being active and doing things like that, it opens up so many more opportunities for you.
Tracy, that's great advice. And it's a reminder too that the job you want isn't necessarily the one that you, or the job rather that you wind up with, and the one that you ultimately come to love is not necessarily the one you went hunting for. And it's important to keep your mind open, particularly in fractured and uncertain times. So
Hmm.
thank you so much for spending a few minutes talking about your career journey and that good advice. Stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.